For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson. Just as the media coverage from the docuseries Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV began to simmer down, another allegation towards former Nickelodeon producer Dan Schneider has emerged. The docuseries covers Schneider's rise to television and his accusation of fostering a hostile and inappropriate work environment. The series goes on to tell several stories from former employees, recounting their experiences on multiple hit TV shows like All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, and more. Now, former All That cast member Beth Denberg is speaking out, and she has accused Schneider of showing her porn, initiating phone sex, and more during her time on the show when she was just a teenager. Denberg's All That tenure ran between 1994 and 1998. Denberg said around her 19th birthday, Schneider asked for a meeting where he would allegedly show her clips of pornography on his computer. Denberg would reveal this information while talking to Business Insider, and she would add she felt like this was the first time he preyed on her. Now, this is not the first time Schneider has been accused of showing pornography to a coworker. During the docuseries, it was revealed that Jenny Kilgen, a writer on The Amanda Show, claimed that he would often do this to other writers in order to see how far he could push that person. According to Business Insider and Denberg, her relationship with Schneider turned sexual when she was around 19, making him 28 at the time. The article states that Schneider allegedly discussed sexual topics with her over the phone and even initiated phone sex at one point. Denberg also said she would sleep over at Schneider's house and they would give each other massages. Denberg compared her relationship with Schneider to a weird, abusive friendship, saying, "I couldn't have been more green. I couldn't have been more vulnerable." Business Insider would reach out to Schneider for his comments. He would reply, "As I have previously stated, there were times, particularly in the early years of my career, that I made mistakes and exhibited poor judgment as a leader. If I did that with respect to Beth, I sincerely apologize to her, but I cannot apologize for things I did not do." In addition to his response, Schneider will also note the writer that broke the Business Insider story was also an executive producer on the Quiet on Set docuseries. He would add, "The fact she would pursue allegations regarding what may have happened between adults nearly 30 years ago, only a week after I filed defamation lawsuit accusing Quiet on Set of being intentionally false and misleading, seems more than coincidental." According to Business Insider, at the time, Denberg didn't see these interactions as inappropriate, often telling herself she was older than 18. She felt that if she refused Schneider, there would be a possibility that he would stop writing sketches for her and humiliate her on set. She would go on to detail several more inappropriate and uncomfortable incidents between her and Schneider and said she made the decision to come forward in order for others to feel safe. Joining me is our very own Danielle Miller to discuss this topic in more detail. Danielle, this is definitely a touchy one for sure. So I want to talk about a couple layers here. First, what's your reaction to hearing from Beth? Are you surprised to hear about these allegations?
I am, and I'll be truthful. I'm surprised to hear about it because recently, when the Quiet on Set documentary came out, Kenan Thompson made a statement and said that he was not aware of the things that were happening. Or I think he said that this bout happened after his time there, and then knowing that him and Laurie worked together along with other persons like Nick Cannon. It makes me wonder, what are their thought process on it now? Are they thinking now, looking back, like, maybe there were signs, maybe like that? That's the thing. That was my initial thought about it. Also, in terms for Laurie, how, we've seen her come up through the years on various TV shows and her talent being displayed, how has that made her feel throughout her career?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were definitely surprised because what seemed like everything was kind of like simmering down. You kind of, you weren't hearing about Dan Schneider anymore, and then this would come out. Definitely was surprised to see the story, but just the allegations and things, just a little, based on everything that has been reported before, not too surprised there, but definitely when I saw the report, I was like, holy smokes, I guess it's back, it's back and in the conversation. And there's been obviously a lot of allegations. Dan is pressing charges, and all these different type of things. I think the question here is like, what happens? What do you think should happen next with Dan? What do you think should come from this for him? What are your thoughts surrounding Dan and what should happen to him?
Keep him away from kids. Keep him away from kid TV. I don't know if he's gonna actually be jailed for the things that he's done because I just don't know. I don't know. But I do know that he does need to be kept away from kids' TV. There were, and I will be honest, because I haven't spoken about this on the platform, but watching growing up as a kid, some TV shows on Nickelodeon did turn me off when I saw certain scenes, and that was me as a child. I didn't know why. It just wasn't clicking to me personally. And now when I look back at the things that they were saying on Quiet on Set and some of those scenes I see again, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why. See, when you're young, you won't really understand it, but you do know something little off. I don't know if it's just me or if it's other persons as well, but something was just a little off about some of the things that were going on. But I definitely think that he should be kept away from kids TV. I think that he should be kept away from Hollywood in general, basically.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Definitely away from kids. And honestly, yeah, my thought went there as well. It's crazy to me because I think I saw that he's working on a movie or something's coming out that he was still able to work on that's more in the comedy field. So it does blow my mind that he even still, like, people still feel comfortable to say like, hey, I'll work with you. Because I've seen other situations where, allegations come out, whether they're true or false. And it's like that person is gone. They're out of Hollywood. They're no longer working in that field. So I'm very surprised to see that there's even a possibility and I think I saw an article where he was talking about like, hey, yeah, I still have this movie coming out that he's listed as the producer and writer on there. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But I think there's a conversation too, Danielle, about, because we see this, whether it happens in Hollywood or just in your day-to-day 9 to 5 or whatever the case, where a lot of people abuse their power. Because that's what we're seeing in this dynamic, right? I think, around the time he was 28, she's 19. She said they had a weird, abusive friendship and all these type of things. But more than anything, she did say there was a sense of fear of that he's going to write me out of my skits. People, talk about that. How do we prevent people from abusing their power? Because we see this a lot in the stories that we hear and stories that we don't hear about.
I don't know, Symphony, because this is something that has been around from the beginning of time. And you know what? I want to correct myself on something that I said earlier when I said I don't know if he's going to go to jail. It's crazy because if Don Schneider was, I wouldn't be questioning that. I wouldn't. But the fact that he is, of a different authenticity, and I love all the Lord's children, it's sort of like up in the air, like, will he go to jail for this? Will he not go to jail for this? So I'm going to take it from the perspective of our community when it comes to power and dealing with situations and such. I think we need more of support groups when it comes to men in our community when they get into positions of power in terms of how to deal with it. Because especially if you were one that grew up in a situation where you didn't have that access, you didn't have that power, you didn't have that money, some things could go to your head sometimes and you can feel greater than thou, right? So I think more conversations need to happen in that realm. Again, this is a situation where we cannot demolish it because where there are human beings, there will be flaws, there will be sin. What we can do is we can suppress it as much as we can. And I think it starts off with having these conversations as such that, yeah, you have power, but don't abuse that. This is how you treat people when you're in power. This is how you treat your female colleagues when you're in a position of power. This is how you treat your male colleagues when you're in a position of power. This is how you touch them. This is how you interact with them. If you have an attraction to them, then how do you deal with that? I think those conversations need to be had inside of our community.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think in any structure, when we're talking about business that has the finances to provide these courses, I do think it should be a requirement. And even when we're talking about kids, Danielle, a thought that came to my mind on the other end, like I think anybody, I don't care if you're in childcare, Hollywood, wherever, if you deal with kids, you know how the officers have the body cameras? I feel like there should be a body camera placed on you to hold you accountable for the more than, yes, take a course, but something for the more, because it's too often, and not necessarily in this situation with Lori, but just in general, what we know from Hollywood when, somebody of power is messing with kids, or even when we talk about daycare and all these different things, I just think there needs to be something placed where in the event that you decide to abuse a situation, I do think, especially when we're dealing with kids, like everybody should wear a body camera. You, and you. If you dealing with a kid, you need to have a body camera on, because the story just happened too often. And then when you get to, the adult situation, I do agree that there should be something in place that teaches you how to properly deal with the feelings that you may have for someone, the liking that you may grow for someone. Because sometimes, and I will give no excuses to anybody, but sometimes you just don't know how to deal with it. And you do what you feel is the right way or the best way or what you've seen. And that's not always the right way to do it.
And concerning the thing with the body cam too, Symphony, and this, people might get mad at me for saying this, but in the realm of leaving your kids with an adult unsupervised, you gotta be out your mind, King. Like, you gotta be Hollywood or not. I don't know you, Papa. I don't know you, bro. Go over there. I'm sorry. Okay, let me go back to speaking proper. All my, because that's a hot topic for me, because that's the common thing that we've seen throughout these stories. Oh, these parents feel comfortable leaving these kids with, no. My child, don't do that. Do not. So I think more parents need to make sure that they're in a place where they can supervise their kids as best as they can, and also to have conversations and making their kids feel comfortable and talking to them if something uncomfortable happens to them, and deal with it immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to head out, but there was one thing you said before we discussed this, obviously on camera, where we were able to dissect this a little bit more. It was, and I don't want to take it from you, so I want to give you the opportunity to mention that as well. For women as well, I think there should be some type of training you were mentioning, and I agree with it. So I want you to talk a little bit about, or mention that as well about, when you're in a situation.
I think because when you're dealing with men of power, we'll be very honest. I don't care if you're 19, I don't care if you're 30. If somebody is holding something in their hand that you really want, you're going to be in a compromised position where you might not want to do it, and you are afraid, you tense up. As simple as, I know this happens to me, but if I'm around a guy that I really like, I tense up. It's just a natural reaction, bodily reaction, that over time you have to train yourself to deal with. In these situations, you don't want to train yourself to deal with that, because you don't want to put yourself in that position over and over again. So I think from very early age, we as women need to have conversations as in terms of what to do in that situation. How do we control our psyche? Because it's more so of our psyche in those situations where somebody might put us in a room and corner. How do we deal with that? What do we say? How do we move? How do we report it afterwards? Where is the support group in terms of that? Because you'll have some people that will probably question you in terms of, oh, why you do that? Why you put yourself in that situation? So I think we need to have more conversations regarding how do we react in those situations, and really form great friendship bonds with our women. Whereas if something like that does happen to them, then they can speak about it, and somebody will be there to hold their hand and walk them through the process. I think that's very important, whether they be 15, let's not talk about 15, let's talk about 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way up to, it can happen to a 50-year-old woman. It's just a bodily reaction when we're in an uncomfortable position to tense up and to freeze up. It's just our psyche.
Absolutely. No, I thank you so much for that, Danielle. And thank you for joining me on this topic. I know it is definitely a touchy one, but being able to navigate through it, I appreciate you for joining me in on this. But you heard from us. Now we want to hear from you in the comments below. What do you guys think of the latest revelation from Lori Beth Denberg? Let us know in the comments below. And stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing here to our YouTube channel. Check out Hypers Club for all your cool and original merchandise and content. And for our YouTube viewers, if you like this story, send us a super thanks by hitting the button below, and you can tip us what you want to show your support. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson. We'll see y'all in the comments.
Wow, I didn't know that either. Enjoy this story? We got stories like this when you're a member at hypersclub.com. Being a member of the Hypers Club means you're the one to get the first access to these exclusive moments. The only way to see is to join the hype.